Hey there, welcome to another episode of Legends with Elroy. Today I'm excited to tell you another story about Billy Bob the Knight. Now this one starts as Billy Bob was taking a little rest. Someone's at the door. So Billy Bob made his way over to the door, and he opened the door, and there before him was Porky the Porcupine. He was not a pig, and Stanley the skunk. And Billy Bob said, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And they said, "Billy Bob, it's time to celebrate Christmas, and we need to decorate for it. And so, if we're gonna do that, we thought we should get your help." And Billy Bob was like, "Oh, why does everybody always come in the middle of the night? Well, what do you guys need my help with?" And Porky said, "Well, you see, I'm going to decorate my house in a lot of different ways. But as my grandfather always said, the most important thing is the tree. It all starts with the tree. That's the big focal point of the decoration. Before you can really decorate everything else and make sure that everything goes together, you have to have the tree. Now, I think the most important part is the cookies. But my grandfather was very into trees. He was a tree porcupine, and so I understand the interest there. But I digress. Anyways, I need your help chopping a tree down, Billy Bob. You see, I can chop things, but I'm not as big as you, Billy Bob. You're a big knight, and you can chop things very well. And so I was hoping that maybe you could help." And Billy Bob thought, well, I do like getting Christmas trees for people. Not to mention, I need to get my own. So maybe I can take this opportunity to cut down 2 trees. One for me and one for Porky. Stanley also wanted one, so I guess 3. So they set off to the forest. Now, it was a nice, crisp morning by the time they arrived in the forest. There was snow on the trees, and it was chilly. Not like the kind of food. It was chilly, like the cold outside. No one had a bowl, and they weren't trying to eat chili with cornbread or something like that. That is different. But it was chilly. Brr. So, they got ready to get going. But you see, the thing about picking out the perfect tree is you don't necessarily just walk up to a tree and be like, "Oh, that's the one." No, you have to look around a bit. And you have to think, where is it gonna go? And exactly which part of the house? And how tall can it be? And do I want to also have an outdoor tree as well as an indoor tree? These are all questions that they had to think about. And they also forgot the sleds. So, they had to go back and get sleds. Because you see, if you're pulling a tree, you want to have sleds. You don't want to, they're big trees. You can't just put them on your shoulder. They're very big. So anyways, they got the sleds and they made it back to the forest. It was about midday. And after looking around for a while, Porky would look at one tree and be like, "Oh, this is the one, Billy Bob." And Billy Bob would get ready to swing and he'd say, "Oh, maybe not, I don't know." And so he'd walk over to another one and he'd knock on it and be like, "Who's in there?" I don't know who he was hoping to find inside the tree. Maybe like a distant relative, like another tree porcupine. but no one was living in the trees, except for some squirrels, and they were not a big fan of the whole knocking thing, so they would throw acorns and they'd be like, "Ah!" But I digress. So anyways, after a while, it seemed like he had decided to pick a tree and then decided not to take it on pretty much every tree in the forest. And Billy Bob was starting to get somewhat impatient. And finally he said, "Porky, you need to just pick one." And Porky said, "Well, I will climb up one of the trees, and I will look about, and then I will decide which tree, and it will be final." So he climbed the tree. Now, the interesting thing about Porky is, as you know, he liked to eat a lot. And so he kind of got distracted in the tree because, of course, he brought some biscuits and some scones and some croissants. He didn't have any Christmas cookies yet, but, he was going to make those later. But anyways, he was eating all the other stuff all happily, and suddenly he heard chop, 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 chop. And he thought, Billy Bob must be chopping Stanley's tree. And then he heard timber, and he was like, hey, I wonder which tree's gonna fall. And his tree fell. He was like, ah! Thankfully, he was okay. But, it hurt. And he got cake on his face because, he was eating cake. And then it fell. Cake in your face. Anyways, and so he was all dizzy. And he was like, what's going on? And he looked up, and there before him were Georgie and Frankie the dwarves. And they said, what's going on here? And Billy Bob walked up and he said, Georgie and Frankie, you guys chopped down the tree with my friend Porky. And they said, Porky? Oh, we're so sorry. We didn't mean to do that. You see, we're cutting down the tree for our great hall because we want to decorate it. Our great-grandfather said that it's always important that you have a good tree. It should be the focal point. And Porky was like, mine did too. Oh, my head. Because it hurt after the fall and all that. Anyways, and Porky, Georgie and Frankie were very sorry. But thankfully, Porky, after eating a couple cupcakes, felt quite better. And interestingly enough, the fall made him decide that he wanted a tree that he passed on his way down. And so he told Billy Bob, will you please chop that one down? And so Billy Bob did. He got up this mighty axe and he said, heave. Oh, but that's like something you do when you pull ropes. And so then he thought about it and he was like, I should have a chopping saw. And he was like, chip, chop, it's time to chop the trees. Chip, chop, it's time to chop the trees. We're going to chop a tree. We're going to make a Christmas tree. Put some lights on the top. Get some ornaments. Maybe make some cookies. And then it's time to play. Hey! And by the time he was done singing, he had chopped the tree down. So then he picked a tree, and Stanley picked a tree, and Porky picked a second tree because he wanted an outdoor tree. And so they all had different trees. So they all got their trees loaded up on the sleds, and then they decided they would go for a race. Like a sled race. But, they had trees on the sleds, and so it was really cool. And, slightly dangerous because they were massive sleds with massive logs, and they were going really fast. But it was pretty awesome seeing them go really fast until Porky ran into a tree. He was eating another biscuit, and you just never know. Those trees sneak up on you. But thankfully, he was okay. So, after a while, Billy Bob made it to Porky's house, and Frankie and Georgie had gone their way to set their tree up, and Billy Bob and Porky had helped Stanley set his tree up. So now it was time for Billy Bob to help Porky set his trees up. So they got the trees and they put them in place. They made sure that there was water at the bottom, and the smell of the fresh fur was heavenly. So finally it was time for Billy Bob to go home. He went home and he got his tree set up. He didn't get it decorated yet. I don't actually know if any of them got it decorated because they were all quite tired. So after he had his tree in the water, he lay down to rest. Oh, I should probably take a shower first. But he went outside, and you see, he had a fancy shower. He had this little bucket that had a bunch of holes in the bottom, and he had a bigger bucket above it, and he would pull on a lever, and then it would all come down on him. Unfortunately, I think squirrels had stolen the bucket with the holes. So he didn't get the shower. He had to take a bath. And so he said, I splashed, I was taking a bath. all about a Saturday night. A rubba-dubba. Someone was at the door. But that, my friends, is a story for another day. I'll see you all in the next episode of Legends with Elroy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see ya.